Today marks the first release of the Rose engine. Now this release is only a beta, so please keep that in mind as not all features are fully tied in yet, and there still may be a bug or two remaining. But so far, it's pretty stable at this point, and I feel comfortable making a public release. Before you pick it up, I've got two demos available for you to try. One is a demo with the map editor itself, so you can try to build something. However, in this demo, you will not be able to save your map data. It's simply to give you a hands-on preview of the editor itself, so you can form an opinion on how map building works. Again though, bear in mind, this is only a beta, and it is missing some features and quality of life things. I plan to add new features to the editor as I go, and these features will mostly be to improve the workflow. For now, it's pretty bare bones, but it will be expanded upon and relatively soon. The other demo I have is another preview map. Someone was curious about how this would look with FSM tiles. Honestly, I forgot who it was, and I did not use them for this demo, so I apologize for that. I'm still using the RTP. I built an ice dungeon. It's got 2 floors and it shows off a few features that this engine is capable of. This entire demo is done with eventing. There is no janky code written here to make this work. Unlike last time, what you see here is purely built-in event commands as well as simple plugin commands that this engine comes with. Now, this engine does have a tiny bit of a learning curve, not so steep as Unity or Unreal Engine or anything like that, and I will be making tutorial videos to help communicate how to properly utilize this engine, as well as helpful tips and tricks. One video should already be available, which will be on camera control for cutscenes and how to easily utilize camera plugin commands. They might seem a bit hard to understand before watching the video, so I highly recommend checking it out if you plan on picking up this engine. Now then, on to updates. Lots, and I mean lots, of changes have been made since the last video. This includes almost a full rewrite of nearly everything. This was not without cause though. The engine is now much more flexible for me to work with, as well as any programmers who decide to try and build something with this. Speaking of which, I will also be putting videos out on how to properly utilize this in your own plugins. It's actually really simple to get set up. There's not a whole lot to it, and it can be broken down into 3 parts: 3D stages, cameras, and meshes. But I digress. This rewrite has drastically improved performance, as well as fixed issues with mobile devices. Previously, mobile devices were not playing nice with this engine. I've tried running this demo on my phone. I mean, it's not the best phone in the world. It's just a cheap $60 phone, and it works at around 30 FPS, which for the size of the map and the lack of optimization I've done, I'd consider it a success. This rewrite also allows utilization of multiple cameras, so it'd be very easy to create some split-screen multiplayer game, or maybe just have a mini-map, which both of those things I do plan to add in the future. It also has fixed the texture bleed seen in the last demo. I've also gotten auto tiles working, and events are now able to be placed in the map in 3D space through the editor itself. Speaking of the editor, the entire UI for the map editor scene has completely been rewritten. I've added some really needed quality of life updates. Now, there's still a lot to do, but these changes make a massive improvement to workflow for now. But lots more will be done in the future to improve this further. I'll go over the revamped UI in this video real quick. Now, it may not look like much has changed here at first. We have the same map list with a basic add button at the bottom, but now when you click the existing map, you are prompted with several options instead of just being taken straight to the map editor. We have Edit Map, which brings up the map editor. Edit Properties, which allows you to adjust map name, skyboxes, etc. I'll open the Properties window real quick and give you a preview of that. Inside this window, we have Name, Display Name, Tile Set. These are properties you should already be familiar with. We also have Event Map. This is the map that we will pull in events from. This map also determines encounters. Now, this is a 2D map that you would set up in RPG Maker, and you only need to define your events here as well as the troops that you will encounter on this map. Next, we have width, height, and depth. Now, this one is a little different. What used to be height is now depth, and height refers to actual height. Since we are working in 3D space, we have a true height value now. Next, we have scroll type, which is disabled for now. We have encounter steps, autoplay background music, the background music itself, autoplay background sound, the background sound itself, specify battleback, and our battleback images, disable dashing, and again, these all work the exact same as in the default RPG Maker editor. And I'll click on background music, and here we can specify the name of the background music, and it pulls in the files from your audio folder, so any custom music will be read as well here. Volume, pitch, pan, and background sound works the same. And battleback, when you select a background, it will change here in the top window. That way you can visualize what your battleback looks like. And then we have Parallax, which has undergone some changes since we no longer have a parallax and instead use a skybox. Our parallax is now separated into 6 images: top, left, right, back, front, and bottom. Top being the top of the skybox, bottom being the bottom, etc. This is visualized in the upper window as well. You can see I have this all set up already. If I were to change this, whenever you hover over it, the differences between each parallax. I'm just going to leave it at space. And note is currently disabled because I do not have keyboard input set up yet, and trying to type out some notes with the default name input might get a little bit tedious. And that's it for the properties window. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Now onto the editor, which is where the actual map building is done. And I'm going to choose map 5. And you'll see a somewhat familiar yet different layout than before. Top left is our mesh window, just like before. Meshes are the shapes we can use to build our world. You don't need to mess with any collider info. Colliders are automatically determined from the shapes themselves based on their position, rotation, and scale. We have a few buttons here on the side though. One that has an M on it, and M stands for mesh. It's grayed out because we're already on the mesh window by default. The E stands for events, and if we click on it, you'll see a list of all the events we have created in our event map. In this case, I didn't even specify an event map, so we don't have any events here. But when you have events, you can place them in the map in 3D space. No need to try to fiddle with any comments or note tags to try to position them in 2D. It's all done through the UI here. We also have 2 buttons at the bottom of our window called Draw and Erase, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Click Draw and you will draw by pressing the spacebar, Z button, or Enter. If you choose Erase, you will delete the selected mesh from the Place Mesh window, which is located at the bottom left corner. And I'll show you how that works right now. So I'm going to place a cube and a plane and a slope. They're all placed on the same tile, and I can click on them here. And now I choose Erase, and I'm going to erase the cube first. Now I'll erase the slope, and then the plane. And our selected mesh window, this has undergone some changes as well. This window now displays the textures applied to a mesh, as well as the mesh type. That way you have a better idea of what mesh is what. This is helpful if, for example, you have 2 or 3 planes with different textures applied to them, or 2 cube meshes with different textures. This should hopefully help determine which mesh is which. And you can also double click on the mesh again to bring up copy and cut options. I plan to map these to hotkeys later and completely remove this window, but for now this is how it's done. Next we have the mesh inspector. Not much changed here except the hide button, which hides the inspector itself, as well as the save map and exit map window located below. Again, this is just to help you get a better view of what it is that you're building. You can hide all windows at the same time and get a full view. There is one new feature, and this is pivot. The pivot determines where the pivot point of our mesh is, and it's easier to understand by demonstration, so I'll give you a quick preview. I'm going to choose cube because it's a little easier to visualize. Okay, so for my pivot, I'm going to move my pivot on the X all the way to -50. And you see nothing has changed. Now, by default, our pivot is in the center of our cursor. So it would be right here on this axis and right here on this axis. And we put our pivot -50 on the x-axis, so that means our pivot moved all the way this way. So our pivot is now right here, exactly. And what that means is when we scale on the x-axis now, it expands from this point and it goes this way. It will never expand this way. I'll change my pivot back to normal and show you what happens when we try to scale the x-axis without adjusting the pivot. So you can see it expands to both sides from the center, but because we changed our pivot to -50 on the x-axis, when we scale now, it stays on the left side and it expands to the right. And this doesn't just apply to scale, this also applies to rotation. So if we rotate, our cube will rotate around our pivot point. And if I reset it back to normal, we rotate from our center again. Now the next window is the save and exit window, which I think is self-explanatory. You can save your map data here, and you can also exit the map back to the editor, simple enough. And our final window is the mesh texture window. This window allows you to specify what textures are applied to each face of the mesh selected in the mesh window. Right now we have cube selected, and this is a good example because the cube has a lot of faces, which can probably be confusing. I mean, it has 6 textures. How do you know you're applying the right texture to the right face? Well, I made some changes to hopefully help fix that problem. When you click on a texture from the mesh texture window, every face of the cube will darken, and the face that is using the texture we clicked will slightly brighten. And now we know exactly what face we're applying a texture to. This isn't the only change to the mesh texture window. I also added multi-texture selection, so now you can select more than one texture and apply the same texture to multiple faces at the same time. And I'll show you how that works right now. All you do is just click on all the textures you want to apply a texture to. We have all of our walls selected, and the top and the bottom are deselected. So now if I were to apply a texture, it applies to every face we have highlighted. And there is one more change to our window here, and that change is we can now leave this window open while we place meshes in the world. So I'll choose some auto tiles here for our cube on the top and the bottom. And you might remember earlier I said animated auto tiles were working. It may look like they're not working here, but when we place them, they animate. Before we place them, they do not animate. I'll go ahead and erase these real quick. We have one more change to our editor, and that is the introduction of the debug info window. And from this debug info, we can deduce the X and Y of our cursor as well as the zoom, yaw, and pitch of our camera. This information can be useful for a lot of things, which I'll cover later. You can actually access this also from in-game while playtesting by pressing Ctrl or Alt. Now I'm going to show you how events work as well, so I'm going to change maps to a map that I already have made. And you can see I already have a few events here placed. The first one is this boy here, and it's really simple. You just move your cursor where you want to place the event, press Z, enter, or space, and it places the event. You can move him up, say put him right here, or put him right here. And you can't place duplicates of the same event. It will just erase the event from its current position and move him to where you have currently selected. And in the bottom left, where previously our placed meshes were, instead now we have our placed events. So if you want to erase this event, you can click erase and select this event, and it's gone. But I want to keep that event there. The next window is our inspector window, and you have less properties than a mesh and different properties as well. The first one is cam direction lock, and just like direction lock, except it locks the direction for the camera. And what I mean is, if we rotate around our boy event, his direction changes based on where the camera is looking at him from. He's always facing south in the world. Now for the treasure chest, you might not want that to happen since it doesn't have a north or east or west direction. It's just got an animation that it plays. So I'm going to jump over to the chest here. Cam direction lock is going to fix that. So with it on, it does not change its direction like it is here. We also have is plane, and if I turn that on, our event will turn into a plane and it will not billboard towards the camera. It just stays facing one direction. And rotation is grayed out until you turn on is plane. This is good for something like a door. You can change the angle of it. And you can do this on a per page basis. So that's all of the changes for our editor. Unlike last time, I'm not going to build a full map for this video. In fact, I already have a few maps built, and this is one of them. These are demo maps that you can try out by clicking the links in the description below. For right now, I'm going to close the editor and I'll jump into our 3D map. And I transferred immediately into a 3D map. You can't choose a starting 3D map, but what I did was I made the player start in this map here in 2D, and I have the player start as transparent in the Systems tab. And this single event is auto run, and it has a map transfer 3D request. Then it waits 30 frames and it changes the transparency of our player back to normal. And there's a few changes here. First is camera. The camera now collides with walls. It will not clip through the walls. And collision has been slightly adjusted to be a bit more accurate. And I placed an event here. I'm going to start it. And you might notice we have animations working in 3D space. Now this is true 3D on the animations. It's not 3D translated to 2D like it was before. These animations are in actual 3D space. You'll notice the ring around the player goes behind him. So there is depth to our animations now. And I'll go talk to this kid over here. And here we have some plugin commands to show off camera control. Our camera can be manipulated via plugin commands, and it's really easy to set up. You can adjust the target, the yaw, and the pitch of our camera. And like I said before, you can press Control and you get the camera's zoom, yaw, and pitch. Sorry, you can also adjust the zoom. So this is good for setting up events like this. You'll be able to press Control and see where you want the camera for the event. Alright, so he told us we could jump over here and get this treasure chest, so... And our camera direction lock seems to be working fine. So I'm gonna get this chest. Balloons are working as well now. There's another animation. And jump is working as well, but there is one caveat with jumps. You need to run a script call. I can't do them through plugin command because you can't execute a plugin command through move roots. It's really easy though. I'll walk you through setting it up here in a minute. And now's a good time to tell you that battles are working as well. Okay, this map's a little bit more interesting. We got a little bit more going on here. There's a slope going down this way and a slope going down this way. I'm gonna go down this way first. And we can take a look around, and there's some water down there. I don't know why there would be water on an ice map, but hey, why not? We can walk across this bridge down here. And I'm just going to run away from that battle. We can also walk down below the bridge we just walked over. And we can't walk on the water. Normally you can walk on all tiles, but what I did was I made invisible cubes, and I used their collider to prevent the player from walking over this. In the future, I'll add an extra parameter in the map builder in the inspector window, which will allow you to set the passability for vehicles or the player. Okay, so that's all there is down there. I'm gonna walk this way and get into another battle. And some more use of camera control. Screen shake now works in 3D space. I had removed the 2D effect because it left black borders on the side, which looked a little bit weird. So now it shakes in 3D space. This demo is available through the link in the description below. It is not a download. It is hosted on the web, so you don't need to download anything. You can just go to the link and run it from there. So like I said, I'm going to show you how the jump commands are set up, and this is my map that I have associated with my 3D map. So all of my events created here, this treasure chest, this boy, the sword, and these are the events that I have set up for jump. So I'll take a look at this script call in set move root. It's really simple. If you look at the normal jump we have offset X and Y value. Now in this script call, I just call this dot jump and then in parentheses 2, 0, 0. Now X, Y, and Z. So 2 on the X, 0 on the Y, and 0 on the Z. You also need to keep in mind that because we're working in 3D space, Y is now our true up, so if you go to 1, you'll be jumping up the height of 1, and Z is what our Y used to be. So Z is now jumping forward or backwards. So in short, we're making the player jump 2 to the right, and that's all there is to it. You can use this exact same code for event or the player. It doesn't matter, it's the same code. Now for our camera control, it's pretty simple. You can see we have rotate here. I'll take a look at this. We rotate our camera pitch to 115, our yaw to 90, and you can get these values by holding the control button in the game or at any time in the map editor. And the duration is in frames, so this is 30 frames, 60 frames equals 1 second, so this is over the span of half a second. And then wait for completion. So if you set this to true, then it will wait until the camera reaches its goal, pitch and yaw. And then it will process the next one. But if you set it to false, it will process this and this at the same time. And that's exactly what this is doing. So I have the camera rotate to this value and then move to event 6 all at the same time. And while I'm here, I'm going to show you everything that does work and does not work with events. It's actually easier to show you everything that doesn't work at this point instead of everything that does. So everything in tab 1 works. Everything here works 100%, there's no issues. In page 2, under the movement section, we have transfer player, that works. Set vehicles location does not currently work. I have not implemented vehicles. Set event location works. Scroll map, this does not work because I have implemented plugin commands to take advantage of the camera, which I just showed earlier. Set move route works. The only thing that doesn't work is our jump command, and I already showed that. So technically it does work, it just doesn't work through the default jump command. Get on off vehicle, again, I haven't implemented vehicles. Change transparency works. Change player followers, I haven't implemented followers either. Gather followers, again, I haven't implemented followers. Show animation works. Show balloon works. Erase event works. Show picture, everything related to pictures works. Timing works. Screen works fine except for weather. I haven't tested it, honestly. It might work. It probably does work, but seeing 2D weather in 3D space might get a little, it might seem a little weird. Everything audio and video works. Battle processing, shot processing, name input, open menu, open save, game over, return to title, all of these work. Everything in system settings works, except for change vehicle image. Again, I did not implement vehicles yet. Change vehicle background music, it probably works. You probably won't get an error for that, but there is no vehicles, so everything under map doesn't work, and I do plan to implement all of the features that are not working. That's going to be the first thing that I do, is implementing all of the missing features from RPG Maker, and then from there I'm going to focus on improving the map editor. And battle, everything here works. This is completely fine. Same with advanced, script, and plugin commands, all work. they're just fine. So there's not too much that's broken or missing, and they will be the first thing that gets fixed. After that, it's just editor updates to improve ease of use and speed up the map building process. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this project, please consider purchasing it. I know it's still a beta, but the funds will help me continue development of this engine. You can also support me on Patreon or my Ko-fi account, and patrons at a certain tier will be able to access this plugin as well, and they'll also be able to access updates a week in advance. So that's it. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.